everyone. Thank you so much for coming to hear me talk about myself. In the next couple of moments, I'm just going to give you a short testimony of what God has done in my life. I was born into a Christian family. My parents were awesome at teaching me from a young age the importance of my faith and my role as a Christian in this world. And even before I could really much comprehend or say anything, I knew who Jesus was, and I went to church and was a part of Vacation Bible School or Awanas and things of that sort. So it was really awesome for me to be involved and that sort of thing. I have one sibling, his name is David. We were always very, very close growing up. We moved around a lot, and so he was kind of sometimes my single friend, and we were very attached at the hip, and we did everything together. It was very awesome. Because of moving around a lot, I didn't really get to have like a very, very close friend. And so through that, I kind of started to struggle a little bit with wondering who I was and having a little bit of an identity crisis, especially entering into my junior high and high school years. I started to feel very uncomfortable and self-conscious in my body, and I always felt very ashamed of who I was. And I really had that strong self-esteem growing up. And I began to get a lot of bullying happen to me and peer pressure, and it was just very, very hurtful. And it got to the point where even some of my not immediate family, but like family members like uncles or grandparents would say things to me about my weight that were very, very, honestly, kind of cruel comments. And it was very, very hurtful to hear myself being called pork chop or fatty or things like that that were just so degrading to who I was as a young girl. Entering into more of the earlier years of my high school, I started to get into some really, really bad things. I started to smoke and hang out with people I shouldn't have, and date boys who were very, very bad for who I was as a person, and kind of made me do some things I'm not very proud of. And I hung out with people who ultimately made me into a different person. I was trying to be this girl who felt confident and strong, but on the inside I was crying out and just not eating and feeling so bad about myself. And I would just cry at night and wonder, like, why don't I feel better? I've done all these things that are supposed to make me a certain person, but I feel so alone and I feel so empty. And through all of that, by the beginning of my senior year, I ultimately hit rock bottom. I felt so ashamed of who I was, and I'd heard about this God, and I always pretended that I had a relationship with him, but I never really did. And at that point, I hit my knees and I said, God, I need you. More than anything else, I need you to come into my life and just be real to me. I need a relationship with you. And at that moment, everything changed for me. My life completely turned around. Yes, I lost friends. I lost one of my best friends, actually. But through that, I was finally a whole person. I was finally a person who could look at herself in the mirror and not feel ashamed of who she was and not struggle with her identity. By the end of my senior year, I went from being the girl who was talked about behind her back to the girl who was like, wow, that girl has a great relationship with God. She's such a godly woman. I was speaking in chapels and raising awareness for human trafficking, things I never would have done a year prior. And through that, it's just honestly a testimony even today of what God has done in my life. I went to college, I met an incredible man, and we're now married. We have a beautiful little girl named Charlie, and we're active in youth ministry. Guys, I'm telling you this because God can truly take anyone's life who is broken and broken down and beaten and torn and completely make them into someone who is beautiful. I appreciate you listening to my testimony, and thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.